Especially when you
No
have
lay down, right?
Okay.
You got existence and not right up by
Seeing at 6 p.m., I'd like to call the September 18th, 2024 regular meeting of the Kenai City Council to order. I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening and also ask if you're able to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Daniel,
Here.
Mayor Gabriel,
Here.
Councilmember Askin,
Here.
Councilmember Doffett,
Here.
Councilmember Baisden,
Here.
Councilmember Sonart,
Here.
Vice Mayor Naxted.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight, we have no lay down. Next item is approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Vice Mayor Naxted.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the agenda and consent agenda and request unanimous consent.
Second.
Is there anybody from the body like to amend the agenda or consent agenda at this time? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please read the consent agenda into the record.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Approval of the regular meeting minutes of September 4th, 2024, brought to you by the city clerk. New business, action approval, bills to be ratified, brought to you by the administration. Action approval, non-objection to the issuance of a new retail marijuana store license for Shackelford Farms LLC, doing business as Shackelford Farms LLC, license number 38593, brought to you by the city clerk. Action approval, confirmation of mayoral nomination of a partial term appointment of Zachary Rohr to the Harbor Commission, brought to you by Mayor Gabriel. Introduction of ordinance number 3438, 2024, accepting and appropriating donations from the Kenai River Marathon through the Kenai Community Foundation for the installation of bike racks and bike repair stations, brought to you by the administration. Public hearing scheduled for October 2nd, 2024, and that is your consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to any item that is on the consent agenda, which was just read into the record? Seeing none, is there anybody online? Seeing none in chamber or online, we'll bring it back to council. Approval of the consent agenda was made. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the agendas are approved. Tonight we have no scheduled administrative reports. That brings us to scheduled public comment. This evening we have Samantha Springer, Kenai Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center Executive Director, Kenai Silver Salmon Derby Grand Prize Awards. Ms. Springer.
So I have just some information, and then I'm hoping Mayor Gabriel, and we have Miles from Marathon here to help present the checks as well. So this year, the Derby wrapped up on Sunday. We had 153 participants. We sold 395 daily Derby tickets. We had 76 fish weighed in. The grand prize spin was 10.77 pounds. The adult $5,000 grand prize with 10.83 pounds was Kevin Dell. And the youth $1,000 grand prize at 9.86 pounds was Carter Romero. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, so if you want to come down, we'll get the.
Yeah, how old is Carter? Just 10. Okay,
10.
very good. It's nice to get the official age along with the official weight. I mean, this is for the youth. So certainly, we'll take a brief pause here.
Awesome.
Sounded like it was a little tough sledding for Silvers this year, but there'll be a winner eventually. And obviously, thank you to all the sponsors to make this happen. It's an 8th annual, and it just gets better and better every year. The funds go for a worthy cause, and we will continue that. And certainly, thank you, Samantha, for all the hard work you put in for that. Thank you. Any other comments? Perfect. Thank you, guys. Again, thank you, Samantha, for all your hard work on your next big event, I suppose. Any other announcements from the chamber? You might as well.
Yeah, just a couple. So Kenai River Marathon is going to be not this weekend, but next weekend already. I know some of you are already volunteering, so thank you for that. We just got out of this one. Now we're going to move right on to that one. And then right after that, we're 3 weeks away from our annual fundraiser. So tickets already went on sale. We're down to 9 tables, which is amazing. I think we have like 74 seats left. So it should be pretty amazing. It's on October 12th. Get your tickets fast if you want them, because I don't think they're gonna last the week. That's my hope, actually. But, and then we move right into Haunted Chamber. So yeah, we're in full panic mode, but it'll be great. And I should have the totals for you guys soon on what the Silver Salmon Derby donation will be. I just have to figure out the rest of the numbers. So
Okay.
I know it'll be at least $10,000.
Awesome. Very good. Any questions for Samantha? Thanks, Samantha.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I'm gonna come back.
Okay. At this time, is there any person that'd like to speak to the council on any item that is not on the agenda or consent agenda? Seeing nobody in chambers or online, we'll move to public hearings. First up, we have item E1, ordinance number 3432-2024, accepting and appropriating funds from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, passed through the State of Alaska Department of Education and Early Development, Division of Library, Archives and Museums for library employee training. Pleasure, council. Vice Mayor Nexon.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3432, 2024.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to ordinance number 3432-2024? Seeing none, we'll bring back council and discussion from council. Vice Mayor Nexon.
Well, I want to thank the library for getting the grant to do this, and I thought maybe we could get a kind of a briefing on what the Early Development Division of Library Archives and Museums is all about.
Thank you. Ms. Wolf.
Okay, can you repeat that question, please?
What are you going to apply this money to?
Gotcha. It actually already happened. I got to attend a conference in Juneau. It was the Alaska Library Association conference about a month ago. So it's all done already.
Thank you, Katja. Any further questions? And I think we got the next piece of legislation also deals with accepting an appropriate library grant. Seeing no other discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Gabriel?
Yes.
Councilmember Askin?
Yes.
Councilmember Dothit?
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden?
Yes.
Councilmember Sonard?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nakstad?
Yes?
Councilmember Daniel?
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3432, 2024 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have item E2, ordinance number 3433-2024, accepting and appropriating a grant from the state of Alaska for the purchase of library materials. Pleasure, council. Vice Mayor Nexon.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3433, 2024.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance number 3433-2024? Seeing nobody in chambers or online, we'll bring it back to council. Discussion with council.
I would just, since we have a librarian here, I was just curious, what kind of materials are on the docket to purchase new this year? Or is there anything special besides just books, or?
Ms. Wolf.
Thank you. So this is a grant that we get every year, and it just kind of gets folded into our budget. I cannot tell you specifically what we're going to purchase with this money. It's just going to be part of our monthly purchases. So probably new books, yep, some of our STEAM kits, and digital materials. Yeah.
Mr. Eubank?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Katja, would you mind giving council a little, so council, typically this grant is for 7,000. The last, I mean, historically here, I'm guessing the last 5+ years, it's been for 7,000. And kind of out of the blue this year, it was reduced to this 1829, but I think Katja has somewhat of an update. I don't know that anything's written in stone, but if you don't mind, Katja.
It's actually been, I want to say a couple of decades. It's been between $6,000 and $7,000. It depends on how many libraries apply for this grant. It's a non-competitive grant, so it really depends on how many libraries are eligible and how many libraries apply. So this year, we were a little bit surprised when we were informed that the total this year would be $1,829. It caused quite a bit of stir in the Alaskan community, and there were a lot of people who reached out to the Department of Education. And about 2 weeks ago, we were informed that the Department of Education, or I should say the Division of Libraries, Archives, and Museum, is working on fully funding this grant up to the $7,000. We don't, that's what we're hoping is going to happen. At the very least, it's going to be close to that. So we'll find out October 15th.
So council, what I do expect is a second ordinance very similar to this one for that additional amount. So it will be forthcoming.
Vice Mayor Nexon?
Thank you for that, and I did read the article some time ago about it and was kind of surprised, and what you just said, but the article, at least what I've read, did not discuss why the state reduced that, and it sounded like it was a surprise. But even within the state, do you have anything that's, you want to elaborate on?
Other than gossip and rumor,
Oh, be careful.
I don't really, not at this time, no. If you look at the state budget, I mean, there are some assumptions we can make, but I don't know fully what's going on.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Askin?
Yes.
Councilmember Dothett?
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden?
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nakstad?
Yes?
Councilmember Daniel?
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel?
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3433, 2024 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have ordinance number 3434-2024, amending the employee classification plan by reclassifying the capital projects manager to a public works assistant director and increasing general fund estimated revenues and appropriations to reflect the position support of public works divisions. Pleasure, council. Vice Mayor Nexon.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3434, 2024.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance number 3434-2024? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. Discussion with Councilmember Baisden.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe through the city manager, why this is needed and what it's going to do to maybe help out with the position.
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Baisden. So this is kind of the culmination here of a project the administration's been working on, looking at the structure of our Public Works Administration and trying to determine a way we think we could make it more effective and more efficient. It's also relatively timely. Right now, the capital project manager is going to be retiring here in early October, so we will have a vacancy in that position. And so anyways, what this is basically going to do is currently the capital project manager is devoted 100% to capital projects. And when we looked at some of the issues or difficulties we're having in the Public Works Division, the Public Works Director is probably second to the police chief here at the city in span of control. Within the police department, you have a very paramilitary and very structured command structure where there is the chief, a lieutenant, you have sergeants under that. So you have a very, regimented structure. And what we think we found is that, by having to supervise 19 different individuals in 5 different disciplines, one of the things we've identified is we believe that span of control for one individual was a bit much. So by creating the Assistant Public Works Director position, the intent here is once we get a new director, which we're recruiting for this week, and we get the assistant director hired, we can determine, what skill sets they have and where the best fit is, and we can then divide up some of these divisions and decrease that span of control for a single individual and spread it out over 2. It also will, I think, provide the capital or the Public Works Director more time to spend on things I think that we've lacked the time and capacity to do, which is more of the planning and long-range type planning and review of projects and just overall management of our assets here in the city. So we're hoping that it will reduce that span of control. We're also hoping that it creates a level of redundancy at the Public Works Administration level where in the event the director in this case would have to go on a long-term absence or we have turnover in that position, we would have a second position that is more than capable of stepping in and filling in during that absence or even at one point promoting into the director position. So we think it's going to create some redundancy in the department. Now, the reason why there's a price tag associated with this is it is, correct me, Stephanie, if I say this incorrectly, it's the same, it's a little bit higher job classification than the capital project manager? Okay, so it's a little bit higher job classification, so there will be a little bit of additional cost, but right now, 100% of that capital project manager position is being charged to projects. What we're estimating with the assistant director is that's going to be reduced down to about 50%. And then 50% will be devoted to whichever divisions he's operating, she's operating or managing. And then they're also going to be tasked with the bulk of our large purchase public procurement and helping departments with that function too, which is another huge time commitment for our Public Works Director right now. So we're really not adding a body here at the city. This is really taking that capital project manager position, rewriting its duties, but we have to fund it in a little bit different way, and that's why you see a price tag associated with this and appropriation as well. So I hope that explains everything.
If I
Councilmember
could,
Basin.
Mayor, just follow up. So, yeah, I get it. I think the span of control makes sense, having redundancy. I know for this body, a lot of times we may have issues because it doesn't seem like capital projects are moving as quick as they could or as efficiently as they should. Do you think this will help in that role also?
Is she right?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Basin. I do think that it's going to help. I think the increase in the classification and the required duties of this position, we were going to get a little bit higher caliber person in the position to help manage projects. And I think I think it will make the Public Works Director, who currently was still managing some projects, much more efficient and effective at managing those projects without having that huge span of control and all those other duties, procurement, 5 departments working under them and things like that. So I do think it's going to make us better. And I like this approach right now because, again, we're not adding another body to our payroll. We're not adding another position. So I think this is a conservative approach, and I hope that it's enough, and I think that it will be.
Further deliberation? Councilmember Naxa?
Thank
Or
you,
Vice
Mayor.
Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. when we talk about this, we'd be almost talking about the next ordinance that's coming up. We're looking at, giving a bonus basically if the person would be a professional engineer. And what I see happening here, and just to kind of support what the city manager is saying, is my experience working for a consultant for the city in the 80s into the 90s. The city had a public works director and also had a civil engineer, an engineer, and they, I'm not sure exactly where their duties, overlapped, and they did, but and it worked very well, and I think that this moving forward, based on my experience here at the city, working with the city, that this reclassification and getting somebody with a few more credentials, perhaps, and all that, and abilities to do this, I think that that department will flourish. So I'm definitely in support of this.
Further discussion, deliberation? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dothett,
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nakstad,
Yes?
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance 3434, 2024 is enacted.
Thank you. Council, we're now on item E4, resolution number, or ordinance number 3435-2024, amending the Kenai Municipal Code, section 23.55.030B, qualification pay to include a qualification pay for a Public Works Assistant Director holding a professional engineering license. Pleasure, council. Vice Mayor Nakstad.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3435, 2024.
I'll second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to ordinance number 3435-2024? Seeing nobody in chambers or online, we'll bring it back to council, discuss from council. Vice Mayor, or Councilmember Basin.
Thank you, Mayor. I was waiting for the vice mayor because I know he's going to have say something about this position. So we're going to talk about an engineering certification or professional pay. In that, if somebody brings that in there, because I think the vice mayor was talking about back in the past, we had somebody who held those professional credentials. Will that person, is the intent for that person to have those credentials so when they're looking at projects and talking with other people in that arena, they understand what needs to be done, or are they going to be actually trying to develop projects with those certifications? If I'm getting my point across here, I think that'll be one of the comments people will want to know.
Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Basin. I don't necessarily envision, for one, I guess there are just so many multiple disciplines of engineering. So, if this was a civil engineer, then you might be talking about roads and water and sewer projects more predominantly, or, where in the our buildings arenas, we could be talking about electrical engineers or mechanical type engineers in our mechanical systems. So I don't necessarily envision this position eliminating our need for design services by professional engineers for major projects. I think it goes back to a couple of things. One, I think ideally this is a civil engineering position because that's probably the bulk of what we do. And they also would have the capacity to look at proposed development here in the city, stormwater runoff, all of the things that really need to be part of these project analyses to show that we're not causing unintended consequences somewhere else. So I don't believe it's going to be necessarily utilized for design. We chose to go this route. I give our human resource director a lot of credit in this. Is, the other route to do this was we could have included this as a requirement of the assistant director position. It would have classified as a range hire, which is the exact same 5%. My hesitation, our hesitation in our discussions is we're just afraid we won't be able to find a candidate for that, where I think this gives us the option, if we're unable to attract somebody with the PE, we can still move forward with filling the position. This is only available to the assistant director. It's not available to the Public Works Director, because when they did their analysis, the review, we believe that the compensation for a Public Works Director is sufficient to attract somebody with a PE at its current level. So it wasn't needed at that position.
Councilmember Basin?
Thank you, Mayor. So just to follow up, so, yeah, I hope that, I think a civil engineer, having somebody with civil engineer qualifications is going to be a fantastic addition to the city. I'm not sure that this is going to be enough in today's market to have somebody with those qualifications, what I see here. So I'm just worried that what you've done here may not be enough to entice that person to have that.
Mr. Eubank?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Basin. You very well could be correct, but I believe we have four interviews scheduled this week. I think 3 of those 4 all have a PE license. So I think the market is changing a little bit right now towards the employer favor, since we haven't seen since COVID, but I'm optimistic, but we'll see.
Councilmember Dothett?
And this is for, we were talking about recruiting for the Public Works Director, or are we recruiting simultaneously for both?
Mr. Eubank?
Yeah, you're correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Dothett. That was, I'm talking about the Public Works Director in that case. So we'll see when it comes to the Assistant Director position. Our goal is to hopefully let the new director hire his assistant. So, but yeah, it could be, but when they did the market comparison, we do feel like this puts us competitive with other entities that have these positions. So we'll see.
Further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Baisden?
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nakstad?
Yes?
Councilmember Daniel?
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel?
Yes.
Councilmember Askin?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dothett.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3435, 2024 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have item E5, ordinance number 3436-2024, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the General Fund Lands Administration Department for professional services associated with the sale of city-owned land, determining 11 city-owned properties are not needed for a public purpose, authorizing the city manager to dispose of properties by public outcry auction, approving the terms of financing to be offered on the sale, and designing those parcels as eligible for 25% veterans discount. Pleasure, council. Vice Mayor Nakstad.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3436, 2024.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance number 3436-2024? Seeing nobody in chambers or online, we'll bring it back to council. Comments, deliberation from council. Councilmember Basin.
Thank you, Mayor. So in the past, some of the auctions that I've seen take place here in the borough, a lot of times the amount that's set for the minimum bid that can be accepted, a lot of times, a lot of the parcels come back. They don't actually get sold. Is there anything that could take place to where, not talking about lowball type of amounts that would be provided for a parcel, but if something was close, does this body have a chance to look at it to where you could sell it at that price so it just doesn't sit there? The goal is to sell this property, get homes built on it so we have taxable income. If something's close to that amount, can it ever come back to this body? Because I just in the past, I've seen too many pieces of property not get sold at these type of auctions.
Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Basin. There's nothing in this legislation that at least would give the administration that level of authority. The intent is to establish the minimum bid for these properties at the borough tax assessment, which I think is already at a discount. I think that's probably likely a little bit below market. The one quote, and we could be getting a couple of other quotes, but one of the requirements that we've asked of the one quote that we have is that we do envision there's potential we will be doing another such auction for like those gravel properties over off Beaver Loop once we get that subdivision complete, is that can we relist those at no additional, at no cost to us in a subsequent auction. And so this would give us an opportunity in that case, if we don't get successful bids, to drop that initial offer and put them back out again. You know, in talking with the one auctioneer we spoke to quite a bit, you know, they really do recommend a very low entry, because, you know, they believe that once you get people in it and bidding, you end up generating more interest. So, but they were very comfortable with the initial bid starting at what the borough assessment is to start, so.
Councilmember
And
Basil.
just to follow up, can you remind me, the city also provides favorable terms for financing also?
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this contains those provisions that would allow us to accept, I think code requires 15% down payment. And, but this would set, we would accept 15% down. We would accept an interest rate of prime plus 2% for a maximum term of 10 years for the sale of these properties. So, you know, what this, if I can, Mr. Mayor, what this ordinance, then there's a lot going on here. First thing is it identifies these 11 properties. When we went through the city's land management plan, all 11 of these properties have been tagged and approved for disposal at the time the plan was adopted. They all have road access. They all have either are of sufficient size to support on-site water and sewer, or have access, direct access to city water and sewer. We have a number of other residential properties within our inventory, but a lot don't have developed roads to them, or don't have direct, you know, or of a small size and don't have access without a lot of infrastructure being in place for water and sewer. So that's how these 11 were identified. It also, so it declares them not needed for a public purpose. It then sets those, it allows us to sell them by public outcry auction. That will be both a live auction and a online auction running simultaneously. So you don't necessarily have to be here to bid, so people can bid in both ways. We're modeling this after one of the borough's recent land auctions, where they did not the tax foreclosure, but their regular land auction, which they had significant success for and generated sales greatly in excess of their minimums. So it also, like I said, then establishes those terms that we can accept, and it also makes us eligible for that newly adopted, I believe by this body, the adopted veterans discount of 25%. So there's a whole lot going on here, but I think it's a good start. And when the city hasn't done a land auction since 2007.
Councilmember Dothert.
So, yeah, I totally agree with us getting some land out there. I think it's a great idea. The one thing that, and I might want to look at it, is I'm pretty sure the last borough land auction I was able to participate in, I actually went there. It was a great success. But I'm pretty sure they listed all of their properties just kind of as a feeler. They went straight out and their starting bid was double assessed value, borough assessed value. And that's where they started. And I want to say they sold all those properties, or I want to say it's in the high 90 percentile of all those properties sold for even the starting bid of being double the borough assessed property values. So that's one thing I could see, is maybe looking at seeing what the borough did, and if they had good success at double the minimum bid, basically based off of the borough assessed tax value, that might be something to look at it. I mean, modeling it, if we are modeling it off what they did. And then I was just curious, how does the veterans discount work? Is that going to be, and my envisioning is that they would bid the same as everybody else, and then upon winning bid, they would get a 25% discount on the final price that they were able to go to? Is that how that works, or is it going to, I'm just kind of not sure how it's going to work in a live auction.
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Dothert. I think that's exactly so. They will bid just like everybody else. And then if they are the winning bid, then they will submit the proper paperwork to qualify for the veterans discount. And if they do end up qualifying, then that purchase price would be reduced by 25%.
Okay, that's what I was curious. And then the last thing, there's no actual requirement for development on these lots. Somebody can purchase them and hold on to them as speculation. That's my only concern. I didn't see somewhere where it requires construction of any kind, correct?
Mr. Eubank?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Doth. No, there is no requirement for development. We had long conversations about this, but, I think the chance for speculation on these 11 is relatively low. There's a lot of demand right now for buildable lots, and there's been a lot of activity in the city, so I got myself comfortable with moving forward in this way, but, like I said, a lot of these properties, the last land auction we had were in 2007. A fair number of these properties were involved in that auction and didn't sell at that time, so, it means we've been sitting on them for 17 years without generating tax revenue or anything as well.
Just one last thing on the veterans. Is there any stipulation with that discount that they have to hold on to it for so many years before they can resell it? Because that's the only thing I don't want to say people would abuse it, but I just didn't know if there was something that if they do get the discount, can they then relist it at no penalty? Or I don't know if there's any way we could even do that.
Mr. Eubank?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't believe there's anything. I think the only stipulation in that is that they're only eligible for I think they're only eligible for one discount.
Okay, so they can only do one lot, and that's,
Yep.
okay, that's fine. I just wondered, I'd hate to see somebody go in and buy them all at a discount, and then next thing we know, they're all listed. That's the only thing. But if it's just one, then that makes sense. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Basil?
Yeah, just to comment, two things. Of course, the veterans discount, we were all here when we voted for that, so maybe you just don't remember that.
I'm not saying against it.
I'm not saying you're against it, but to infer that a veteran could buy something and then not do what they want to with it would be wrong. And just like also us selling a piece of property and putting stipulations on it, what you have to do with it. No place in government should we ever do that in any of these type of situations.
Further discussion? Vice Mayor Naxton?
Yeah, thank you. I'm pleased with the list that we have, and I concur with all 11 of them for disposal. And new information was that you're contemplating anyway, putting it out at the borough assessment, which is probably arguably a 20% discount from what its market value, minimum market value might be anyway. And that might work out well for a bidding purpose, kind of like the city manager suggested. Usually if there's a recommended, for any kind of bidding amount, if you start below that, the energy begins and they surpass that and go on up. So it probably does make sense to go with the borough's assessment. But I do agree with the list here and support the ordinance.
Further discussion? Councilmember Daniel?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Quick question, if this is enacted, when are we going to pull the trigger, so to speak, on this auction?
Mr. Eubank?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Councilmember Daniels. So right now, we're waiting, I believe, tomorrow is the deadline for the quotes from auction companies to perform this service. Once we have those in hand, we will award, and we're looking at middle of October to actually hold the auction. One of the other benefits, one of the other things we've asked for, and many of these auction houses have this, is that a lot of the auctioneers are also licensed real estate agents, so they will put these on MLS for us. So there's going to be great exposure, we feel like, the next 30 days. The other benefit of using these auction houses is they develop their own customer list, and and bidders list, so they have people that, they work with continually on things like this, so that we think it'll broaden the market as well. So, but we're looking in the middle of October to have this wrapped up. And, it could be as easy as the day after this ordinance is past its 30 days, we could be holding the auction. So,
Councilmember Dalton.
I think that's great. I'm glad to see we're moving forward, and this will be kind of a good way to test the waters. And, maybe if this goes really well, we can look at some of those lots that are less desirable and see if we can work forward to moving some of the ones that might need further development in some way. So, yeah, no, I'm glad we're moving forward. And I think by timing it to be able to be middle October, that's right with PFDs. So maybe people have a little extra money in their pockets and they can increase those bids a little bit. So I think it's good timing too.
For discussion? I have a few comments. I just want to say I also am support of this ordinance. I'm glad to see that we got that little piece of property over on Lou Morgan and rolled this in here, because I don't think we have any business owning property on Lou Morgan Road, I believe it is. But out of curiosity, we have 6 lots. I look like similar size. And I apologize, I didn't go on. I don't think we included the assessed prices in the packet. But what are we looking at for, just as an example, for those lots over there, if you recall off the top of your head? They look like they're similar size and area.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say they're around $12,000 individually. I think in total, total assessed value on the 11 is about $250,000 in that range. So, $20,000 average on the borough assessment on some of these. Like you said, some more than others, like the one out off Lou Morgan has got a little bit higher borough assessment on it. And yeah, it's hard to believe the city of Kenai has a lot out in Sterling, but time to move that.
Very good. Further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nakstad,
Yes?
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3436, 2024 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have item E6, ordinance number 3437-2024, amending Kenai Municipal Code to revise requirements related to publication in a newspaper of general circulation to address publication requirements which cannot be met due to the newspaper publications being reduced to 1 day a week. Pleasure, Council. Vice Mayor Nakstad.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3437, 2024.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to ordinance number 3437-2024? Seeing nobody online or in chambers, we'll bring it back to council, and I guess ask Ms. Sainer if she could give us a little overview of this.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. So when the newspaper went down to once-a-week publication, we did a thorough review of our city code and charter to see what our newspaper publication requirements were. Then we had a meeting with all directors that had sections of code that required newspaper publication. And our main purpose was to find the sections that absolutely could not be met with one publication. So what you have here are the 2 that we cannot meet with that change in publication. One is the noticing of special meetings. The council, if you guys need to have a special meeting and we had to base it on the deadline, it could be more than a week before we could have that special meeting at times. So what we're not taking away from here is that it's posted on our website, it's emailed to our subscription list, and we're posting it in multiple places. But on that one, we are completely removing the newspaper publication requirement. And then the second one, our current vacancy for planning commissions requires publication twice in 1 week. So we're getting rid of that to just down to once 1 week prior. And those are the only 2 publications that we could not meet in our current code.
Thank you, Ms. Sainer. Discussion from council. Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Nakstad,
Yes?
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3437, 2024 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have, under new business H4, action approval, confirmation of mayoral nomination for partial term appointment of Stacy Kraus to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Vice Mayor Maxted.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I move to confirm the mayoral nomination of Stacy Kraus to the Planning and Zoning Commission and request unanimous consent.
Thank you. And just for folks out there, this is a term that runs, I'm sorry, his name escapes me, that he just resigned from the, John Costin, thank you, John Costin. And this term runs through December of 2025. So it'll be just over a year and a couple months, just for clarification.
Yes, I think,
Councilmember-
I was going to say that I think she'd be a great member of the planning and zoning with her real estate background and stuff in the city. I think it's a great idea.
Very good. Further discussion? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, Ms. Kraus will be, fill the remainder term of Mr. Costin's term. That brings us to commission reports, rather. First up, we have Council on Aging.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Council on Aging met back on September the 12th at 3 o'clock. They had a pretty lively discussion. They had Mayor John Williams join them, and you know how those conversations can go. They've started having a conversation and bringing out information dealing with the, back whenever the senior center was constructed, and they're looking at having discussions and probably bringing something towards this body in the near future on looking at future expansion and the possibility of what it would look like. They've got about 110, 120 people on the list right now for housing. And their discussions, it's something that they think would be something that would be highly needed for this community and probably something that needs to be talked about. So I think you'll see something come forward. And October 10th is their next meeting.
Thank you. Airport Commission?
Thank you, Mayor. Airport Commission met on September 12th. 2 items they had. One was a lease approval for Crowley Fuels. They had option for a 45-year lease, but I believe they only asked for a 5-year lease on that, and that was recommended. The second item was approval of the 2025 through 28 Airport Capital Improvement Plan, and looking at, and they approved it in order and as presented, or they recommended it to be approved. And the total dollar amount for that period of time is about $106 million. And a lot of this is going to happen pretty soon. The replacement of the runway we have, that's $25 million in itself. And then when they do the runway, they'll be using the taxiway like they have before as the runway. And then when they move the aircraft back to the runway that's been rejuvenated, then they'll redo that main taxiway, and they have some ramp to do and Willow Street extension. So there's going to be quite a bit of work coming up with the airport, and that's what our Public Works Director and Assistant will be working on as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Harbor Commission?
We had no meeting. The next meeting is the 12th of November.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation Commission?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Parks and Rec met back on September 5th. It was not a meeting, it was a work session, and they were discussing their capital projects that are upcoming. For FY25, it would be a tractor replacement and a Parks and Rec master plan. And FY26, it's another tractor replacement and the Beaver Creek replacement pavilion. A lot of discussion on why tractor replacement was needed 2 years in a row. But the 2 tractors would very much be needed for Parks and Rec. And Tyler Best was explaining about the snow removal they do and how when they clear Dobbins Spec Pond for winter skating and those types of activities is really helpful. And anyway, he did a lot of explaining of why they need the 2 tractors back to back. So a lot of work session discussion on tractors.
I like tractors. I could talk to them about tractors a lot. Can never have enough tractors, in my opinion. Next up, Planning and Zoning Commission.
We had probably the fastest planning and zoning commission on record. I don't know. We were down there in like 18 minutes. They had one plat recommendation, and it was approval, a replat on Highland subdivision of taking 2 lots and making them into one. They were both already standard lots and approved size lots, just erasing in a lot line and making one larger lot. And that passed unanimously, and that was pretty much all the business they had on the plates. Yeah, that's about it on that.
Thank you. Beautification Commission?
So beautification also had a work session that was basically the same work session that Councilmember Sonar had. I talked about the master plan camp a lot, some park shelters. We also talked about walking tours. But I want to highlight that master plan for the parks is going to be very, very exciting. That camp a lot. So more to come. I'm sure we'll see something in the future. And then the next meeting for them is on the 8th of October.
Thank you. On a report of the mayor, I do have a few things. I did spin the opening weight, magic weight wheel a week ago, Tuesday, to kick off the Silver Salmon Derby, and then met Samantha over this, but that was Facebook Live, and then went and did Facebook Live on Monday for the final weights, of which we just awarded this evening. So again, happy to be involved with that, to support that. Speaking of the chamber, this is kind of an interesting correspondence that they were cleaning out the Moose Meat John Kavanaugh as I asked, that Sam said they found they brought it to me. It's on official Saldana Junior High School letterhead from 10/14/1975. Dear sirs, could you please send me as many historical maps, pamphlets, newspapers, etc. on Kenai that you have and or can send? Please return them to the return address on the envelope. Sincerely yours, Brian Gabriel. I have no idea why I might have requested those materials. I was the student body president, I think, that year but goes to show you it doesn't. Thank you for that. I guess I want to say I'll put in the family history archives here. And then lastly, just want to mention that Ms. Sainer did put our request for student rep, and we had one return applicant. They didn't meet our code requirement. Our code requirement requires that they be at least a junior. This particular person was a sophomore, so I asked the clerk to please resubmit to the principals and see if we can't get a junior here. So the closing on that is September 24th. So hopefully we'll have an applicant that will meet our code. Other than that, we might have to discuss bringing in another person who I believe is definitely qualified, but they just don't meet our code. Councilmember Dothan.
Just on that note, I did get an update, and Silas, our previous student representative, he did join the military, and he's going well, and he's supposed to be back on during Christmas. So I just got an update. I just asked about it. I was curious about that. It just reminded me.
What branch? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, honestly. I want to say Marines.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Pretty sure it was Marines.
very good.
He said he wanted to do the toughest duty possible. You got it. And Mr. Thibodeau.
Yeah, he took his year off, and he stuck with it, and he joined like he said he was going to. So.
Awesome. Well, hopefully he'll stop by and visit Christmas. That'd be great. And that ends my report. That moves us to administrative reports. First up, we have City Manager, Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. A couple things to report. October 21st, Kevin Butner has accepted the position of planning director, and he'll be here on October 21st. Will be his first day. Kevin holds a master's degree in city and regional planning. He brings over 8 years of professional experience in that field, and he's most recently served as a transportation planning director in Wheeling, West Virginia. I believe he lives in Ohio, but Mr. Butner he was formerly in the Air Force. He was stationed at Elmendorf, and so he spent, I believe, at least 4 years here in Alaska, and a little bit comfortable that he knows at least climate, what he's getting into. So I'm excited to have Kevin coming. We are interviewing this week for the Public Work Director position. Like I said, we have 4 interviews scheduled. Those are all positive. On a negative note, the city's controller, Rena, has accepted a position with the school district. I believe she's going to be working over there in their finance department. So Rena came to us from the Denali Borough School District, and she has a pretty good background in that. And, so I'm a little disappointed, but I completely understand. I want to wish her the best, and I think, you know, it's good for the community. So at least she's staying here in the community. As far as other recruitments, we are currently recruiting for an animal control officer. That vacancy was created by the promotion, the second promotion of an animal control officer now here to the chief. The airport is recruiting for temporary equipment operators for their winter maintenance season on September 11th. I did attend the Safe Streets Comprehensive Plan public workshop here. That was at the Challenger Center, and got to see kind of the summary of the survey and things that they've done on transportation needs here within the borough. Sam's already reported there on the Silver Salmon Derby, but I really got to extend Sam and the chamber a thank you. I mean, we talk about the city partnering with the chamber, and that, you know, they're the big partner in that group, and they do just an incredible job. So I'm really happy with the results this year, and the fact that, you know, it's something that I think what we heard a lot this year was one of the driving points with the Derby is, you know, I think that Derby was founded on an idea of you know, providing something for the locals, but it also has benefits for visitors coming here, and a lot of our locals participate every year and have every year, and I think it's a great event. Airport manager and I did meet with representatives from Brothers Cafe and discussed you know, potential amendment to their concessionaire agreement, and we're waiting on their response. I expect that here anytime. I will let council know, and some of you may have also already heard, I did get a couple of phone calls and had a real good discussion with our senior center director. There's some concern over there about striping in the parking lot and the lines. And I think a number of our parking lots are in need of a little bit of love. We did include money in this year's FY25 budget for that parking lot in particular in the buildings budget. So that's something I'm going to be working with the new Public Works Director. I'm not sure this is the right time of year to do it. The most wear and tear those lines get is with snow removal activities. So, but I do expect next spring we'll be looking at a project, and hopefully we can get a number of our other parking lots done as well. So if you do hear, I have had some of those discussions. And then I wanted to point out in the packet on page 104, there is a map. I apologize, council. At our last meeting, council passed the ordinance approving funding to subdivide that parcel off of Beaver Loop. That on page 104, it does have at this time what that proposed subdivision would look like, and that's what the survey instructions that were provided to surveyors included would be for that division. It lines up, you know, pretty well or almost identical to the existing boundaries of the pits to the south, and just talking with the consultants and the engineers about, you know, access and other things, we thought that was probably going to provide the greatest success in how we could divide that up. So that map is in there, and again, I apologize for that not being in the packet when you adopted. And if other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Eubank? Seeing none, we'll go to Mr. Plume is not here or online, so we'll go to our city clerk, Ms. Sainer.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I have a couple of things. Just a reminder that absentee voting is going on right now. Interested people can vote absentee in person here at City Hall Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, or at the KPB Admin Building Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Both locations are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day. We are going through a record retention audit, and I am proposing a new retention schedule by department. 4 departments have been drafted and distributed to their directors at this point. Since we updated our commission applications and our code for them, I have been working on a project, and we now have new handbooks for planning and zoning and advisory commissions. We've also updated our application form, so if you look at page 89 of your packet, applications will no longer look like that. In that your packet, they'll actually look like the application that was filled out, which I'm excited about. I've never liked all the information jumbled. And we are also working with IT to get our public records request form online and a workflow that it flows more effectively through the departments without a lot of the manual administration that we're doing. So that is what's happening in the clerk's office, and I'm available for questions.
Questions of the city clerk? Thank you, Ms. Sainer. With that, we'll go to additional public comment. Is there anybody from the general public like to address the council at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to council comments. Councilmember Dothan.
Yeah, a few things. If you haven't had a chance to go by the airport and check out all the landscaping and stuff, it looks really awesome. I'd highly recommend driving by there, and gives that whole building a big facelift. I'm glad we got that done. It looks really great. And as it greens up next spring, I'm sure it'll be even better. Also, construction-wise, if you haven't had a chance to go drive over on Lilac Lane, it's pretty much wrapped up. They got to do a little bit of topsoil and seeding in the spring, it sounds like, but it's paved, and that Disney movie Cars, it makes you want to feel like you're driving on that perfect pavement, so it's pretty nice. It makes that whole subdivision, gives it a big facelift. It turned out really good. I'm really happy with that over there. And I didn't know, it came up during planning and zoning, but I didn't know if anybody else, they did end up, the Salamanca Native Corporate did end up backing out on that deal with the White Crane. Just want to let you guys know they did end up doing that. So, but they're continuing to look for other options and looking for other places, sounds like, so. And that is it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Sonart.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I have a question. At our last meeting, we were trying to decide on a date and time for a Board of Adjustments meeting, and we bantered about a lot of dates and a lot of times, and somehow I didn't get that written down, what we finally decided upon.
Ms. Sainer.
October 15th at 5 p.m., I believe. I can email you the exact time and date. It's on our meeting calendar, but it is the October 15th for sure.
Okay, thank you. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Councilmember Askin.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. So I want to thank Councilmember Basin, who sponsored the Reagan movie. I got to attend that. It was an excellent movie. Last Monday night, I attended the school board forum that candidates participated in. We have 2 really strong candidates, so it was interesting and had some good answers to questions. And that's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Daniel.
I'm going to pull a Councilmember Basin and say no comment tonight.
Here you go. Councilmember Basin.
No, I don't have a big comment. So I had a chance to visit our 2 new restaurants over here on Willow Street, our Donut Shop and our New Mexican restaurant. If you haven't had a chance to go in there, both are highly recommended. Today I wore a hat in, if you can see my hat here, for the United States Air Force. Today was their birthday. Happy 77th birthday to the Air Force. And really glad to hear Silas is in the military. I bet he's grown up lots. Next time we'll see him, I bet we'll see a big change.
Vice Mayor Nexon.
Thank you. I don't have much. I did notice that Samantha from the chamber has re-entered the room, and I just want to say thank you for all the energy that you put into that place. I know you have staff helping you and all that, but you are the head, the voice, and a lot's getting done, and I appreciate what I hear on the radio, see in the paper, and the end results. Doing a good job. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Tonight we have no executive session, no pending items, seeing no other business before